There is not a single Blockbuster left in my town. Remember when that was impossible to imagine? In the 1970s, some brands felt like they would outlast everything. The rush of a Polaroid snapshot, a Pan Am boarding pass, Woolworth's lunch counter, a Pontiac rumbling down the block. But one by one, they are gone. So how did the favorites of the 1970s vanish almost overnight? A Polaroid camera's click once meant instant magic. A photograph sliding out, colors blooming in your palm. By the late 70s, Polaroid owned 2/3 of America's instant camera market. Edwin Land, the restless mind behind it all, guarded his inventions fiercely. When Kodak entered the instant photo race, Polaroid sued and won $909 million, forcing Kodak out. But inside the company, change was brewing. Digital imaging was no longer science fiction by the early 80s. Land and his board saw the threat, but they clung to film and paper, unwilling to risk their empire on a technology that might destroy it. As digital cameras spread, Polaroid's refusal to adapt proved fatal. In 2001, the company that once defined instant photography filed for bankruptcy, undone by its own nostalgia. Kodak's yellow boxes once filled glove compartments and drugstore shelves. The brand name itself became a synonym for memory. In 1975, Steve Sasson, a Kodak engineer, built the first digital camera. Management listened, then shelved his invention, fearing it would cannibalize film sales. Kodak buried the future in a desk drawer, choosing short-term profit over vision. At its height, Kodak employed over 145,000 people in Rochester. In 2012, after missing the digital wave it helped start, Kodak declared bankruptcy. The giant was felled by its own caution. Pan Am's blue globe meant adventure. In 1970, Pan Am launched the first commercial Boeing 747 flight, making global travel accessible. But the Airline Deregulation Act of 1978 unleashed fierce competition. Pan Am, built for a protected era, struggled to adapt. The Lockerbie bombing in 1988 killed 270 people and shattered public trust. By 1991, debt and disaster forced Pan Am into bankruptcy. The airline that once embodied American glamour disappeared, leaving only stories and faded tags. Every Polaroid, every Kodak roll, every Pan Am ticket stub recalls a time when these brands shaped daily life, and when their own choices sealed their fate. The bell at Woolworth's signaled more than a sale. It marked the heart of the neighborhood. The lunch counter was a swirl of grilled cheese, milkshakes, and the hum of conversation. Children pressed their faces to candy jars, while parents browsed aisles stocked with everything from sewing kits to goldfish bowls. In 1960, 4 black students sat at a Woolworth's counter in Greensboro, North Carolina, quietly refusing to leave. Their act sparked sit-ins that rippled through the civil rights movement, making Woolworth's a landmark in American history. At its height, the chain ran over 8,000 stores, anchoring main streets and malls across the country. But the world outside was shifting. Walmart and Target arrived with lower prices and endless aisles, pulling shoppers away from the familiar 5 and dime. Woolworths tried to adapt, spinning off Foot Locker in 1982 and testing new specialty stores, but the old model was slipping. By the early 1990s, executives debated whether to modernize or cling to nostalgia. Internal strategies focused on higher-margin retail, but the changes came too late. In June 1997, after more than a century, the last U.S. Woolworths closed. The company would survive as Foot Locker, trading soda fountains for sneakers, but the era of the lunch counter was over. Pontiac, meanwhile, was still making noise on American roads. The Trans Am, made famous by Burt Reynolds in Smokey and the Bandit, sent sales soaring in 1977, with over 67,000 sold, a 44% jump from the year before. Pontiac's GTOs and Firebirds became icons of speed and swagger. But the oil crisis of the 1970s changed everything. Gas prices climbed, and new rules forced smaller engines. By the 1980s and 1990s, Pontiac's cars looked like every other General Motors model, badge-engineered and stripped of their edge. In 2010, amid General Motors' bankruptcy, Pontiac was discontinued. No fanfare, just a quiet end to a brand that once defined American muscle. The places and machines that once felt permanent were gone in a blink. A Saturday morning in the late 70s, a Cutlass sat in the driveway, chrome badge catching the sun, doors shutting with a solid thud. Oldsmobile, founded in 1897, had become a symbol of American reliability. Its Cutlass, the best-selling car in the country, with over 500,000 sold in 1981 alone. For generations, the brand meant progress, each model a promise that tomorrow would be better than today. But as the years rolled on, gas prices spiked, and the appetite for big V8 engines faded. General Motors tried to keep Oldsmobile alive by sharing engines and bodies with Chevrolet, swapping out only the badge. Then came the campaign, "This is not your father's Oldsmobile." The slogan, plastered across billboards and TV screens in the late 80s, was meant to attract a new crowd. Instead, it alienated loyal buyers and failed to win over the young. Sales collapsed. By the late 90s, the Oldsmobile name barely registered. In December 2000, General Motors announced the end. On April 29, 2004, the last Oldsmobile, a white Alero, rolled off the Lansing line. After 107 years, the rocket's journey ended, not with celebration, but with quiet resignation. Elsewhere, another American institution was unraveling. The Sears catalog, once a fixture on kitchen tables, offered everything from bicycles to houses in a box. At its height, Sears employed over 350,000 people, and the Sears Tower stood as a symbol of its reach. But as Walmart and Target chipped away at its dominance in the 1990s, Sears missed the shift to e-commerce. The company launched new cards, bought a brokerage, spun off brands, but clung to old habits. In 2004, Eddie Lampert took over, focusing on selling assets instead of reviving stores. The catalog disappeared. By 2018, Sears declared bankruptcy, closing its last stores. What once seemed permanent vanished, leaving behind only faded signs and memories. The scent of apple pie and fried clams once drifted from the orange roofs of Howard Johnson's, calling out to families on the road. Kids pressed their faces to the ice cream case, parents slid into turquoise booths, and for a while, everything felt safe beneath that neon glow. At its height, Howard Johnson's boasted more than 1,000 restaurants, one at nearly every highway exit. But over time, franchise owners cut corners, menus stagnated, and fast food chains promised quicker, cheaper meals. Quality faded, and the brand's warmth cooled. By the 1980s, fewer than half remained. Now, just one original Howard Johnson stands in Lake George, New York, a lone survivor, serving nostalgia in every scoop. A few exits down memory lane, Toys R Us once echoed with the sound of sneakers and the jingle, "I'm a Toys R Us kid." Geoffrey the Giraffe watched over aisles packed with action figures and bikes. With more than 800 US stores at its peak, Toys R Us was a rite of passage for countless families. But in 2005, a $6.6 billion leveraged buyout saddled the company with debt. Interest payments soared to nearly $500 million a year. Walmart and Amazon squeezed profits, and there was no cash left to reimagine the stores for a digital age. By 2018, Toys R Us closed its last American locations, leaving behind empty shells and a generation's memories. Friday nights once glowed blue and yellow as Blockbuster signaled the weekend's arrival. Families wandered rows of VHS tapes, the plastic clack a familiar soundtrack. Blockbuster grew to more than 9,000 stores and 84,000 employees, dominating home entertainment. In 2000, Netflix offered to sell itself for $50 million, but Blockbuster's board dismissed streaming as a fad. As broadband spread, movie nights moved online. Late fees and store costs became anchors. By 2010, Blockbuster filed for bankruptcy. Today, only one store remains in Bend, Oregon, a quirky monument to a ritual now vanished. Three pillars of American ritual, swept away by debt, quality decay, and digital change. Even household names can vanish almost overnight, and today's giants aren't immune. Amazon, Apple, and Walmart feel permanent now, but so did Sears and Kodak. The ground shifts fast in American life. These brands weren't just companies, they were part of how we lived. And one by one, they disappeared, leaving behind nothing but the memories of the people who loved them. We'll see you on the next Rewind.